Hello everyone. Good evening, and welcome to this evening's live stream. It's always interesting with these live streams that I realised last minute I don't have to wear earphones because I'm not having a conversation with anyone. I'm not having to listen, to try and hear someone's voice. So it's always actually it feels kind of weirdly naked, turning up and doing this sort of thing without headphones on. But it's also a treat. Hello, Reese. Hello, Lord Engine. It's good to see you guys having a chat in the chat. And looks like Michelle's offering to share some snow, or she's partaking of illegal substances and swearing at everyone. It's difficult to know. But yes, we are here. It is New Year, still within the 12 days of Christmas. Hence, my office is still Christmassy, and I am feeling okay. Although this evening, just in case, I have got some tickly cough syrup and a lemsip just there cooling its heels, so I shouldn't cough too much while we are reading on a reasonable time for you. Well, that's good. It's 10 o'clock here, and I am very happy to say that we have had 6 entries to this year's midnight moot, approaching 12th night moot, midnight moot, midwinter moot, approaching 12th night moot. And these 6 entries are excellent. There are varying lengths as well. Some are short poems, others are fairly longer than the 1,200 words that was requested, but they're all well worth reading and sharing. So thank you so much to everyone for your entries as ever. And as ever, I'll be sharing these after the stream, probably tomorrow morning. I'll be putting these up on the archaeosoup.com writing section of the website, so people can enjoy them and read them at their leisure. And so far things are looking good. I just want to make sure that my phone, I think it must be, good. My phone is not here, so it's not going to be interfering with the microphone, which is excellent. And I think we're good to go. So if everyone's comfortable, I'm just going to have one more sip of my lemsip. Nice lemsip, nice. And I'll just move this Lego toilet block out of the way so I don't lean on it. And here we go. We're going to start with an entry from Rita. Rita entered for the first time our humble moot back in Halloween with the spinning wheel, and she sent an email thanking me for reading it. Said that she appreciated the comments and the good feedback from your good selves, you lovely people in the chat. And she said it gave her a push to try for the second moot, or for the moot for a second time, along with Michelle's encouragement. And she says that Michelle is the wind pushing from behind that tells me this little engine could. Aww. Hello, Rita. Nice to see you. Nice to meet her, Rita. Rita the writer. And interestingly enough, today, copyright free day, or out of copyright day, the little engine that could is now out of copyright as of today, interestingly. So that's a very apropos reference. I've attached below a dear Santa letter for your Christmas podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers, Rita. Well, Rita, let us have a read. Public Domain Day. That's the one. Public Domain Day. Here we go. Letter to Santa. Dear Mr. Santa Claus, there are things you've got to know before you rev up your old sleigh to ride the winter snow. The world is in a frightful mess, and COVID's here to stay. So here are things to think about before your special day. Driving hard your reindeers through icy wind and snow could violate animal rights, and that's a big no-no. Chimneys no longer work, a relic of the past, because the carbon in the air creates a deadly gas. The world, it is a-changing, sir. And being what it is, we need to make some changes to find our Christmas bliss. People now prefer their gifts brought from big box stores. My choice for gifts is Amazon. Please leave mine at the door. And since I know you're overweight, we'll just do I'll leave no milk or cake. Sorry. So should we meet delivery day, we'll just do a handshake. Others on your Christmas list may like their gifts by mail, 'cause if they know you drink and drive, you could end up in jail. Your elves now work for Etsy. The Grinch is here to stay. And though you still get letters, you live so far away. And children hardly write these days. They seldom leave their rooms. So I suspect they may prefer to chat with you on Zoom. It's time to take a holiday. You've worked hard all your life. It's maybe time to call it quits, to travel with your wife. For all you've done and given us, I've nothing but good cheer. So have a Merry Christmas, sir, and a tariff-free New Year. Oh, we can only hope. We can only hope. Exactly. Absolutely, yes. Some remarkable things entered into public domain this year, including The Shadow. I remember that guy from, I think my granddad was into The Shadow on the radio. Thank you so much for that, Rita. Very, very good. There was food for thought. There was some wry commentary on Christmas present and Christmas presents as well. And as ever, lots of fun. Thank you so much for that. Next, we have an entry this is from Lord Engine on Discord, Glenn. And Glenn has given me instruction on how to pronounce the word Qilak, which I do believe is Inuit for sky, or the sky. And I'm just going to, rather than tripping myself up with it every time, I'm going to say Qilak, or maybe Qilak, okay? There is in fact, references and guides online that simply say Qilak, and I'm not sure that that's accurate, especially given what Glenn wrote. So I'm going to go with Qilak. We had an old house up in the north in our younger days, my wife and I. We kept it, but moved south to have kids. Perhaps, we thought, they wouldn't want the wilderness for a nursemaid. It was a cabin, really, with a wood stove, but also a good modern heater. I suppose the previous owners hadn't had the heart to rip out the old iron behemoth. In those quiet years, we had a big red Malamute named Qilak, who loved to laze before the stove when we weren't running the big electric unit and grin while warming his paws. Qilak was trained to pull, and from time to time, whoever asked would get him in the traces and race until he was no longer young enough to do it. Not long after, he died, and we buried him under the giant spruce that guarded the place. I got a job in Sacramento teaching kids how to write English like they knew what they were doing. I suppose some of them must have paid attention, because even now I, every so often, get a very well-written letter from some former student and my oldest, with only modest irritation, forwards them on to me because we took the regrettable step of naming him after me. And that's how such things go. My wife was fond of saying that my words were frozen. She meant it as a compliment, and I knew it as one. My writing did express a certain longing for the north. We did visit the old cabin occasionally, and the kids enjoyed sledding in the winter. But whenever I announced with too much enthusiasm that we would go up there for vacation, the kids would roll their eyes and sigh. Not that I mind California, you see. The redwoods are truly mighty, and the food is legendary, but perhaps I buried my heart under that spruce beside the dog without knowing it. That's always been where you truly are you, was the last thing she said to me on the day she died, patting my cheek. Not long after, I retired. The kids were all grown up, and my pension seemed like it wasn't going anywhere, so I left. I don't know how long I spent cleaning up the old place before winter set in. The year I moved up there, but something had gone wrong with the heating unit. Fortunately, the caretaker had thought to stack plenty of wood, so my nights were full of resinous natural warmth. It wasn't long after the first night, where I had begun to need the stove, that I heard a familiar singing. It was very much not human singing. When I opened the door, Qilak strutted in as if he had spent the last 30 years or so as only a moment, gone out to colour the snow. He immediately made for the stove, as any normal dog might do, but remembering himself, stopped to greet me. Stretching his front paws low, I bent, although the years had made me stiff. I rubbed his ears, pressed his forehead against mine. There was the smell of the utterly ordinary dog breath as he grinned, and also the old aroma of the herbs we used to grow in the spring and summer. He had gotten into them on too many occasions. You had come back from the dead, wouldn't you, big old scoundrel? My throat runs dry when I think of that moment, but my voice only caught a little when it actually happened. He looked up at me, eyes somber, in the way that dogs look at you when they want you to do something that doesn't involve food. Outside, I realized the singing had not abated. I threw on my heavy coat. Several large dogs, who looked like they could be Qilak's litter mates, and one who almost certainly was his dam, from the shy way he looked at her and ducked his head, stood in harness and traces. Overhead, the aurora blazed with brilliance. It rivaled the full moon. The seat waited for me, but there was no one else. When I took my place, the wood did not seem cold. Just looking at the comments there, I can see the question about your niece applying for archaeology and bachelor's. If you could possibly message me that, or if someone could make a note of it, and actually no, it's probably best if you email that to me. My email address is available on the homepage of this YouTube channel, and I'll get back to you on that. But I'm likely to forget otherwise, so please do message me. When I took my place, the wood did not seem cold. I gave the command, and under nature's finest curtain, they ran. The dogs knew what to do. Almost before I could tell them to turn, they turned, and in the sparkle of their eyes, above their lolling tongues, the aurora in miniature again. We found hills I never knew existed and conquered them. A cold black stream I hadn't noticed previously, where they stopped to drink, whose waters would have been black had not they been painted with the dancing sky. This was not the tamed outdoors of today, but the quiet, dangerous wild of elder days that would claim the unwary, but at the same time seduce the whole being of anyone with a sense of wonder left. A dangerous beauty. Sometimes I thought I could see dark, fur-clad figures striding across distant rises, and for all I know, they really were here. But if they were real, and they knew about us, they never made a motion to say so. But when it was time to return, we returned. The slope of the house's roof was a dark shape against the night. When I dismounted, Qilak made as if to follow me, so I let him out of the harness, and the others departed with the riderless sled. He would not come inside, but laid his head on my knee, as much as a giant dog can do that, and looked up at me expectantly. So I trudged to the woodpile and set to making a fire in the old way, with hand and heart. He put his chin on my lap, as if he hadn't seen me for 30 years. He stayed until well after the light from the fire upon the snow was the only light left to see. What a wonderful story. And obviously, I couldn't help but think that he was being guided to the hereafter by his faithful dog. That the ambiguity, I guess, of the end and the return to home is also very cozy, and again very fitting with the theme of this year's Moot, a light in the darkness. Fantastic. Hello, Nolan. You're not, well, you are a little bit late, but you're not late for your entry. Don't worry not. But that was fantastic from Glenn, from Lord Engine. 984 words in that entry. So there we go. Next we have an entry this is from Michelle herself, of the Franklins. And it is 1,555 words, including title. And it's called The Tree on the Estate. The sun from the window warmed the side of her face, and Madeline was persuaded to open her eyes at last. Lord Darren was standing over her, his grey eyes teeming slightly. Now, it should be said that this is an expansion of her story from earlier this year, Shadow Beast. So Darren and Lord Darren and Madeline and others are characters from that book. Winter mornings are second only to autumn mornings, said Madeline, glancing out the window, admiring the glittering landscape. I miss the sense of autumn, but the snow is so beautiful and quiet it's impossible to argue with it. You might be persuaded to quarrel in a few months' time, said Darren, smiling down at her. Many grow weary of not being able to move about the estate. Darren drew her curtain of her hair from her eyes. For now there is a surprise waiting for you in the front room. A surprise? Good or bad? If it were bad, Searle would be in here telling you about it, and we would be hiding from it together. Madeline laughed. Very true. Darren's ear found the sounds of discord happening downstairs, and he went to smooth away the seasonal wrinkles and let Madeline to dress. She emerged from her bedroom 10 minutes later in her winter clothes and came downstairs to find something extraordinary occupying one corner of the front room. Searle was standing in front of the hearth with an air of frustration, not over what he was currently doing, but he was wearing the tempered anger of a mother who had just shooed away a bothersome child and was very put out. He was sewing apple stems together and trying not to think about violence, especially because Madeleine's father had been the source of his frustration. He exhaled, put his needles away, and held the garland of small apples he had threaded together against a large fir tree in front of him. He wreathed it diagonally along the boughs, careful to keep the bold wedge of the tree against the back wall, and then examined it with folded arms, deciding whether the arrangement offended him or not. The lower boughs were already hung round with hard gingerbread and golden baubles, everything carefully curated and no space wasted. He was mentally directing the management of the tinsel, wondering whether it had better not be exactly in line with the apples, when Madeleine descended the stairs. He took up the box of tinsel and began dotting it along the pine needles with perfect precision. "Miss Madeleine," Searle addressed her without turning round, "I do not mean to be rude, but if your good father tries to improve upon the arrangements of my tree once again, I really will sew his hands together." Madeleine brought her hand to her lips to stifle a laugh. What has he done now? He thought that placing the red baubles all in a line at the bottom of the tree was best. I kindly reminded him that this is to be a festive piece, not an arborous lobotomy. "That is very poor behaviour from him," said Madeleine archly. "I can only apologise. I know you are not to be held accountable for him, but his ideas on proper tree decoration are really very shocking. The master has just taken him away to the kitchen, where he might be safe from my diatribes and harass Agatha about the pudding she is currently feeding." Madeleine approached the tree and admired it. It had no unusual features beyond those that Searle had gifted to it, but somehow seemed happy to be inside. "But what is all this, Searle?" she asked, eyeing the garland undulating along the mantelpiece. "Why is there a tree inside the house?" "It's a winter custom from Freywin for their holidays," so says Agatha, "and because she is the one who brought it here, I have no choice but to believe her. Apparently, Freywins don't bring the trees into the house. They find a blue cypress tree outside and ornament it with glass-covered candles, though I'm not sure how that would be possible. Leave it to Freywin ingenuity, though it's to be for something religious, mind you. That is all I can tell you. You'll have to ask Agatha for the rest, my dear, though I know the custom has something to do with the rebirth of the year and hoping things will begin to grow anew in the 2 months hence. Do not ask me what bringing a tree into the house has to do with any of it, but apparently dressing it and putting offerings under it appeases any old gods that might still be listening." "But you don't really believe in old gods, Searle?" "Oh, no. No, my dear, not in the least. I'm far more sensible than that. I only believe in cleanliness, because gods tend to make a horrid mess of things, and their followers even worse. Being godless and immaculate is much the best thing." Madeleine laughed. "Then why take the trouble of fitting up a tree?" "I blame Agatha, really, as I do for most things I do without good reason, because she uses any excuse for cake, and everybody is happy about it. She began doing this when the master was young, as a means of improving his spirits when he was ill. We kept it up over the years, but only got to such a pitch once the master's parents had passed, and we needed to give the house a bit of a good cheer. One might argue that dressing a tree is not necessary to anyone's happiness, but it's certainly necessary to my sanity. It is something to do, and something to look at during the dark winter months. It also gives the front room a gorgeously sharp scent. It is a live tree, Madeline reminded him. Won't the needles coat the floor if the tree begins to dry? Searle beheld the tree with a kind of reverence. There it has all my earnest admiration. Its entire expiration cycle is spent throwing its dying limbs on the floor, to show how displeased it is with the world. I entirely understand its feelings. Besides, with a sigh, watering it will give me something to fuss over after I've already cleaned the floors and polished the banisters 50 times. I'm glad it has become such a household custom. You know I love anything that has to do with celebrating holidays, though I might not know what those holidays are about. I'm only surprised at your being so openly festive, Searle. I'm always festive, my dear, especially when I can be festive quietly and by myself. Holiday cheer is everything I like about the world because it sometimes comes in a bottle, one which I can take to my office and nurse alone. My festive character only begins to wane when Agatha comes to harass me about presents and giving a dinner for all the remaining maids, and all my usual candour returns. Madeline took up one of the baubles. She wanted to put it on the tree, but feared Searle's polite consternations and knew better than to try. She handed the bauble to him instead. Go ahead, my dear, Searle reluctantly encouraged her. You are mistress of this house. You may touch the tree as you like, but you must promise never to tell your father that I gave you that permission. Madeline left and placed the golden bauble exactly where Searle did not make a face when she held it up to the tree. She stood back and weltered in the tender glow, the golden globes taking up the firelight and showing it to the rest of the hall. Who brought the tree inside? I did, said Darren, suddenly entering from the adjacent hallway. Hatley would never allow anyone but the master to take from his copses, said Searle. I did not exactly take the tree, said Darren, smiling. He shows me which one he has grown for this specific purpose, cuts it for me, and then allows me to bring it into the house. I might own the woodland, but he is in charge of what is coppiced and cut from there. I should never wish to cross him, said Madeline, especially when it comes to his regulations about the woods. No, wolves might prefer the outdoors, but he has a relationship with the natural world that makes him protective of every leaf. Does Mr. Hatley worship trees? Darren canted his head and thought for a moment. I don't know I would say so, but he certainly does respect the woods. Darren turned to Searle. Do you need my help putting decorations along the top? Oh, yes, sir, if you would please employ yourself. Darren was applied to for his immense height and long reach, and Searle instructed him as to where and how every last decoration was to be placed. But the honour of placing the last fell to Madeline. Darren put a small decoration in her hand. It was a grey werewolf, with white felt teeth and grey button eyes. Darren lifted her up and held her in place, whilst she hooked the wolf to the top of the tree. He embraced her on the way down, and the two of them revelled in the glow of the tree, complete the viridescent display, humming with life. And there you go. Sorry for a couple of stumbles there, but what a lovely, lovely vignette from that world. And also, what an excellent idea that well, it's true. I mean, yeah, having weird ideas brought into your world, into your house, is exactly what happened with Christmas trees. So yeah, very cool. Mm. Searle says tolerable job. Yes. Yeah, I hadn't. Well, I had an idea for Darren's voice, but I'm afraid my throat isn't up to it. Sorry, but thank you very much for that entry, Michelle. And yeah, I haven't finished reading Shadow Beast yet, so I need to get onto that as a New Year treat, I think. So next we have this is an entry from Marie or Marie, and she says, "Good day. Here is my entry for this moot. Michelle told me about it, and she thought I should enter. We met in a local bookstore. I am a reader of hers, and she gave me writing tips. Marie." So there we go. This is the Christmas Lights Mason Jar by Marie P. Also, interestingly, 428 words, which is 36 times 12. So a multiple of 12. Well done. Well done, that writer. In the end, my grandmother kept a glass jar on her kitchen counter. It was filled with a single string of Christmas lights coiled around itself, with scarcely enough space to distinguish each individual light. Gone were the days of the tree in the den, as she called it. The sparkling angel on the top, with the glittering angel's hair in the tree, gave way to multiple reflections of multicoloured bulbs against the yellowing backsplash and what is left of the scullery on the counter. The jar itself may have once housed some beets in vinegar, green tomato ketchup, soup, or another sort of summer treat prepared exactly for the dark winter months, and presumably the comfort fare that would be served around the darkest week of the year. It's not so clear anymore, since these jars had long since lost their previous vocation. In my grandmother's basement, I have seen the jars of Christmases past used to house nails, bolts, elastic bands, and dryer lint. The jar, however, lingered all year underneath the sink. It is nudged between the scrubbing pad box and the long-abandoned bin bag box. It was the time of the sturdy Sobeys bags still, which were reused for the very little rubbish my grandmother produced. Throughout the year, it saw the languor of January nights, the return of the sun after 6 p.m. in April, the consuming of Easter chocolate in replacement of ham, long summer nights spent doing crossword puzzles with the hum and the buzz of the AC machine in the lobby, the fall of the leaves from the pear tree that shielded the house from many sweltering summer suns, and finally the hand that searched blindly for it sometime in the Advent. The last year the jar was set, no one knew it would be the last. The greens, blues, reds and yellows would spark as much joy in us as the tree used to. No doubt my grandmother had plucked this string from the last Christmas box before donating the tree to charity to keep the last remnant of our cosy, low-key but still memorable Christmases. In a concert of screeching, we would bring the kitchen chairs as close as we could to the counter, to tell stories and reminisce under this strange new tree. Sure, there were presents involved. I was still a child by all accounts, but this minimalist setting brought light into the darkness, in which the northern part of my home province would lay for many months still. The jar was no more. The jar is no more. Lights out. Oh. A lovely little story there. Heartfelt, beautiful. And what a fantastic focus of of memory and family gathering together. Sobeys, yeah, I've never heard of it. It sounds like it must be a Canadian thing. Definitely very Canadian with the references. Cool. And then the jar is no more. It's interesting, isn't it? How it's almost like literally catching lightning in a bottle, isn't it? It's that sort of that interesting thing of it's a turn of phrase that stands for something special that you cannot repeat, and in that instance, you have Christmas lights caught in a jar. No, really nice. Thank you so much, Marie. Okay, our penultimate entry is from Nolan. Nolan himself. And Nolan says here that he was working on a short story for the Christmas Moot, but didn't get it finished in time, so he hopes the poem he wrote earlier in the year will do. It's been tweaked to have 12 stanza, so not a multiple of 12 words, but a multiple of 12 stanza, to fit the theme. I know I'm a day late, so no worries if this doesn't make the cut. It's about the feeling I get sometimes just before falling asleep or right after waking up. Oddly enough, I got this feeling this morning. Anyway, hope you enjoy. Looking forward to the Moot, says Nolan. So let's see. The Sleeping Giant. Just before I fall asleep, I sometimes feel 100 feet. Larger than my snoozing room, while dreams are coming soon. In waking life, my scale is set, but in sleeping I may forget. I am really one size tall, or can I be gigantical? Or am I just 2 inches small, a tiny gnomish sleeping doll? Could I be smaller still, like plankton or krill? Are we microscopic fish living in a petri dish? Then again, I quickly grow. My mind and body do not know. Are we truly human size or gargantuan always? Most creatures, after all, are very, very, very small. Since a child I felt these things just before the Sandman sings, just before I fall asleep, while my mind is counting sheep. Isn't that cool? I do believe, it is a bit Men in Black, but I do believe what you're describing there, Nolan, is, I think I've heard this term just described as alpha waving. The first time I heard someone else describe it was John Lennon in an interview. He was talking about these precise sensations. And I used to get this when I was a kid. I don't feel this anymore when I'm going to sleep. I used to lie there in bed and I would feel as though somehow my body was stretching. My feet were going further away from me. And it was as though the whole room would sort of swell and then reverberate back and almost bounce back as I lay there. It was very, very trippy, very strange. And I miss that sensation. I really do. And I do believe, like I say, it's essentially a sort of a natural brain cognitive process which feels like some sort of trip. But it's very cool. Thank you so much for that, Nolan. Thank you. I'd argue this particular poem could even work as a song. Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. Gigantical sounds very Tolkien-esque. Yes, almost like being 11ty. Yeah, 11-1. Okay, folks, it's time for our final story of the evening, final entry, and this is from Peter. And Peter has long been messaging and emailing me over the years. And he's from Slovakia. And has some wonderful contextual notes for his story. It says here, while the characters and events are fictional, the locations in this story are very much real. The village of Lelès is pronounced straightforwardly as Lelès. The monastic order at Lelès Monastery that plays a small role in the story and has been there basically continuously since the High Middle Ages are called the Premonstratensians. It's a shorter name in my native language than in English, and I'm annoyed it's not an order with a briefer English name. But then what can you do about historical accuracy? They're also called Norbertines, or the Norbertine order, as also briefly mentioned in the story. The monastery in Lelès is one of the oldest continuously existing and operating monasteries in the wider region. Built and first opened in the 12th century and largely the home of the same monastic order since then, with a brief interlude in the 16th century. I hope my little tale will be an all right enough contribution to the light in the darkness theme of this year. I hope you, Mrs. Soup, all your loved ones and friends have a pleasant Christmas and holidays, and I would like to wish you and the team at ArchaeoSoup a happy new year in 2026. Best wishes, Peter. So, Peter, this is your entry. This one, I do believe, let me just check. Yeah, has 2,092 words. So a little bit over the 1,200 upper limit that I try to set for these things. And just out of interest, I made a note here. It's 174.3 times 12. So yes, 174.3. The Moot is missing Morty. Morty's very cozy upstairs with Mrs. Soup. He wouldn't want to be here. He wants to be upstairs under the duvet. He's very cozy, but he's here in spirit, and of course, next time we record, Michelle, I'll bring him in just so you can say hello to him. Okay, here we go. Guilty as charged. Yeah, it's quite long. 174.3 times 12. The thing he had feared most had come to pass. A whiteout. And early evening was setting in. In the current conditions, he could barely see where he was headed, but he kept pulling the smaller sled defiantly. The sled was filled with dry branches and boughs which he had gathered as firewood in one of the monastery-owned bits of woodland. In the winter countryside, not far from Lelès, not far from its old and well-known monastery. Worse yet were the strong, freezing, biting winds, enveloping him from all sides, slowing him down, chilling him down to the bone. It was the year of our Lord 1424, the 23rd of December, a day before Christmas Eve. He felt so close, yet so far away from the village and the monastery. Though he considered himself a pious enough man, perhaps he had pushed his luck a few hours ago. He now felt foolish for setting off to gather firewood so late in the afternoon. The dark blue and reddish pink clouds of the winter sky warned of potential snow and winds. He felt he was swift-footed enough to drag the sled to the nearby woodland, stock up some dry wood, then return back to the monastery before nightfall. The snow was largely ankle-deep, so it seemed a simple enough task. Just one moment. Mr. Soup's word count is off. Maybe it is off. Anyway. Now it seemed a daft idea instead. About the only advantage he had was that he was on a lowland. Aside from the snow under his feet and the snowflakes wildly billowing in the cold, ruthless wind, against an ever darker evening sky, he saw very little. He didn't even have a lantern with him, so great had been his confidence of returning back in time. Once he'll become engulfed by the nighttime darkness, what hope will he have in this snowstorm? For a moment he raised his head upward and exhaled, the mist of freezing breath leaving his mouth, and he saw a bright light in the sky. It wasn't particularly big or strong, but it was bright. Strange. The entire sky was dark, save for that one point of light. Having nothing else to lose, he decided to follow that light. As he walked roughly towards the light in the sky, still stubbornly pulling his sled, snow crunching underneath his warm, fur-lined boots, he soon noticed another light, even smaller. This time, low on the horizon, it lay in the same direction as the mysterious light above. Could it be a light from the monastery? Maybe even the lantern at the nativity scene? About 2 months ago, the monastery was visited by a wandering Franciscan. He met with the abbot and in one of their conversations mentioned the idea of a nativity scene, an idea invented by the founder of his order, Francis, an idea that other orders in the church and various lay people have since embraced, with depictions of the nativity starting to occur at churches, monasteries, even town squares. Many of the brothers at the Lales monastery, as well as the lay people there, in the Conversi and the Donati, like him, were rather surprised by the suggestion. Some were even quite resistant to it. Though there was a sense of camaraderie between the monastic orders of the church, there was no doubt always some sense of loyalty and preference for one's own order. A wandering Franciscan suggesting a nativity scene to a monastery of Norbertine monks? Rather bold. Some referred to it explicitly as a daft idea. Why bother depicting the birth of the Saviour three-dimensionally? Nevertheless, the abbot liked the thought, and it seemed to grow on him. He leaned ever closer to approving the idea, and had apparently convinced the prior and other higher-ups of the monastery as well. And by the beginning of the previous month, the abbot had sent out word to local craftsmen and woodcarvers. In a few weeks, at the beginning of Advent, the nativity scene was displayed in front of the monastery, on the road to its main gate. Some had wondered why it was displayed outside and not within the monastery. But, as the abbot noted, it should be outside, to remind every local and wayfarer of the events in Bethlehem, perhaps even to bring them some courage in the winter cold. Oh, you're very welcome, Marie. Very welcome. He struggled forward. It had not escaped his notice that the brighter light in the sky had now vanished, disappearing as suddenly as it had appeared. It was all down to the smaller light on the horizon now. The biting, gnawing, cold wind was still overwhelming, but as he approached the smaller light somewhere ahead, his willpower to endure the ordeal grew. He could have left the sled there and then and walked forward to the light in order to save himself, to ensure he wouldn't collapse in the snow and freeze to death. But he was determined to complete his task, determined to bring the firewood home, as he had promised. Soon the light was close. Despite the dark and the snowstorm, on a hillock ahead of him he could see the faint silhouette of the monastery, including that of the church of the Discovery of the Holy Cross. The village of Lales was just a bit down the road from the monastery, and it was also faintly visible. Passing by the nativity scene, exhausted, he stopped for a moment and observed its artwork. The simple wooden sculptures of the child in the manger, Mary, Joseph, an ox, a donkey, some shepherds with sheep, brought him a moment of relief and comfort. Above the scene was a wooden star of Bethlehem, and in the background stood a simple wooden lantern with a rawhide shroud, placed there to provide light for the nativity. Was this the light that guided him back, he wondered? It wasn't that strong a light. Whatever the case, a few more steps, and he'll finally be at the monastery. He clenched his weary hand into a fist and beat on the thick wooden gate of the monastery, waited, knocked his fist against the wood again, loudly. Footsteps approached a small hatch on the entrance door, and a small hatch on the entrance door opened up, revealing 2 eyes, and then promptly shut. The door opened carefully. One of the monks of the Premonstratensian order peered out, holding up a wooden lantern, not unlike the one at the nativity scene. His habit was as white as the snow all about, albeit a bit worn by years of use. "You've come back. We were worried you'd get lost in the harsh weather." As was I. Luckily, there was something that guided me back. He noted and gestured in the rough direction of the wooden nativity. "Thank you for opening." The monk nodded and helped him drag the sled with the firewood inside behind the gate. However, as the layman turned to walk inside the monastery, he suddenly felt something small and light slipping from his belt. He then heard a quiet clanking sound, as if something tiny had hit a metal grate. He looked down towards the cobbled floor and realized his rosary had slipped from his belt and fell down the metal grate below. A grate that led down a very thin chute, a chute running deep below into the cellars of the monastery, providing them with fresh air. "Ugh, bother," he exclaimed under his breath, but quickly covered his mouth, as he was tired, and this little mishap had caused his frustration to rise to the forefront, but swearing at the monastery felt inappropriate. "What is it? Something wrong?" asked the monk, quietly and kindly. "Oh, nothing," replied the layman. "I dropped something. Maybe I'll find it later. For now, I'm looking forward to sitting by the fireplace in the kitchen and eating some nice hot food." The monk did a silent little nod, and both of them began walking to the kitchen in the refectory wing. The layman was certain he had looked for the rosary down in the cellars, perhaps after the holidays. Increasingly, she felt that she had underestimated the worsening weather outside. Sitting snugly in the warm interior of her car, things were looking ever more worrying beyond the windshield. She had just turned off the radio after the old 1980s Mainstay by Chris Rea had concluded, followed by the latest weather forecast. The 80s song's optimism seemed misplaced. Driving slowly and carefully, the hum of the car and heating, her only companions now, she wasn't enamoured with the fact that the road and the surrounding landscape was ever harder to see clearly. There was the partly snowed-in road, the snow on the ground, snow in the air, even snow streaming just above the road, and what visibility the car headlights might offer. The weather forecasts warned of heavier snowfall, even down here in the lowlands, exacerbated by strong winds carrying snowflakes through the landscape, packing it into snowdrifts, even over the main roads. Not every field and meadow along the road had or could have portable barriers set up against the formation of snowdrifts on the roadway, and it was already dark outside, the last of the of evening before tomorrow's Christmas Eve had set in. She was stuck in her car, the snowstorm intensifying, the darkness covering the whole world around her, save for the front of the car and a bit of road ahead, illuminated by the headlights. Perhaps it was a daft idea to ignore the forecast's warnings on the weather this evening, posing a potential risk to traffic. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. She was here, in the here and now. She had to focus on getting out of this situation. It was about 3 minutes when she suddenly noticed something around the upper right corner of the windshield. A light? It was fairly bright, but not too big. A star? The ISS in orbit overhead, perhaps? Who knows? The rest of the sky was completely dark. That point of light reminded her of something, but she wasn't quite sure. She shooed away a strange thought that had occurred to her. Following the light in the sky for a few minutes, her headlights suddenly revealed the silhouette of a stone bridge east of the main road. Not far from it, and just a few meters ahead, a crossroad with a local road to the right connecting to the main road. She had reached the crossroads at Lelès. Following the light in the sky for a few minutes, blah, 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 I'm reading that again, sorry. Looking to her right, eastward, she now saw the electric street lamps and Christmas lights of the village, including some lights around the nearby monastery. The same monastery whose cellars she and her colleagues were to explore in a few months, come spring. She steered the car onto the road leading to the village and proceeded slowly onward, with the wind ceaselessly blowing snow onto the road. She had a cousin living in Lelès. If worst comes to worst, she thought even though she didn't like the idea of pestering her, she could spend the night at her house, she thought. Once she stopped the car at her cousin's house and shut the door, she had an inkling to look up. Strange. The sky was wholly dark again. Whatever that light had been, it was nowhere to be seen. Winter had departed some months ago, and the new archaeological survey at the monastery in Lelès had continued apace. Arriving that morning, the 4th day of the new research phase, she was surprised when a colleague called her down into the cellars, into a previously inaccessible area that was only reopened or rediscovered yesterday. We found a well-preserved item in that narrow space, possibly some remnant of the medieval ventilation system from the cellars, later walled off, he explained. He explained, leading her to a portable table with finds laid out, and turned on the lamp. Nice little find, don't you think? She picked up the small object, weathered but not decomposed, still holding together. It was a wooden rosary. A set of rosary beads on a thread with a simple wooden cross at one end. It seemed quite possible it was many centuries old. Looks old, doesn't it? Definitely. Wonder what centuries it's from, asked her colleague. The space we found it in was isolated for a fairly long time. You have to wonder how it got there. Maybe someone dropped it by accident. We'll leave the speculation for later. Later analysis showed the rosary was, indeed, between 500 and 600 years old. She felt that who originally owned the rosary would likely remain a mystery, possibly forever. And there you go. And I can see in the chat, but I didn't want to address it immediately. Yes, there was obviously a time jump there, a nice little intersection of a moment of the rosary falling, but also that mysterious light in the sky. A curious confluence of events, possibly. degrees north. Interesting. Now, interestingly, I live at 55 degrees north. Here in Newcastle, there's something called the 55 degrees north roundabout, which is a roundabout on the 55 degrees line. But what stops the northeast being frozen solid and and unbearable is the wonderful warm water from across the Atlantic, I think. But there we go. Thank you so much for that, Peter. Yes, non-linear, and I think this is one of those things where I'm not quite sure how I might have indicated the breaks, as it were, in bragging. Where we have 5 extra degrees. Yeah, indicated. So the breaks were indicated by by 3 dotted lines between different periods or different moments. So there was a visual indication of that time jump. I suppose I tried to indicate it with a little bit of a pause, a momentary pause. But nonetheless, I like the story, and as seems to be a theme with your writing, Peter. I love the fact that you're interested in the fact that for these objects, or indeed in some cases for immortal people, time and the ongoing nature of time is just one lifetime. It's one time is one place that people are experiencing at different times, Yeah, I think so. I think it works. But no, I love the fact that you have this in this instance tying archaeology in with the rosary that's lost by an unknown person who we get to meet because we're reading the story, with just going back to, I think, in the Halloween episode with the HEMA enthusiasts, the medieval weapons enthusiasts at local museums, material scientists, archaeologists, etc. There is something universal about touching and holding an object, isn't there? And that's one of the big draws of archaeology. I think for people who love archaeology, is the fact that, oh my goodness, the last person to touch this was 50,000 years ago, that kind of thing. And I think your writing sort of draws on that and pulls on those threads really, really nicely. As you say, yeah, 500 years is a long time in human history, but in the history of our planet, it's almost a blip. Exactly. It's less than a blink of an eye. No problem. It's not that far enough. Honestly, just isolated. Nice to know we're on the same level, as it were, Mark. Indeed. Upside, it will end up in a museum. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, the fact that rosary sort of ends up, or will end up, even as an unknown object, as an accident of survival. Again, it's one of the whimsies of time, and as you say, history, Cylon. Absolutely. Belongs in a museum. Mm-hmm. Well, folks, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been great hanging out. Naturally, I'll see you guys on the Discord server, where I'm sure we can continue these conversations. And I look forward to seeing what this year brings. Tomorrow, I have an episode of Archaeo Scoop that I'm going to be finishing the edit of and uploading, where me and Michelle talk about some of our favourite festive finds from recent times, and also as well our favourite find of the year in 2025. And I guess, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what happens next year, or this year, I guess, because obviously it's the first of the first, 2026. Wow. Thank you, thank you. I always like to try my best with the readings. Sometimes I regret a lack of emphasis in certain places when I read it back and go, oh, I could have got that, could have emphasized that a bit better. So, for example, you would come back from the dead, wouldn't you? Saying that to the dog. I didn't quite get that emphasis right, but the hat is wonderful indeed. It is pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, I've actually got my, I've got my, where is it? Ah, got my my Christmas hat as well, but I figured that I would wear a more generalised festive hat. Uh, who won? There could be only one. What do you guys think? Who do you guys think won? Sound off in the I won, obviously. Throw it all in the air and grab one. Yeah, yeah. I do. I really do. I did. I loved your poem, Nolan. I thought it was really good. And as I say, very reminiscent of that experience that I shared when I was a kid. Definitely. I remember similar sensations. Mark's hat won. I I liked all of the entries, not including yours, of course. Of course, your entry was good. I Mine was second. If you want to go back. Oh yes, yeah, it was. Yeah. Um, maybe what we need actually is we need to instigate categories. Then we need to have like a maybe someone wants to write a poem, then we have a poetry entry, and then we have a prose entry or prose category. A gigantical might have won. It's so hard. It's so difficult to make a decision on. But I thought it was great. I thought Marie's entry was an excellent first time entry, very poignant. Michelle, as ever, writing with that inimitable sense of humour and cannot help but educate by showing us the weirdness of Christmas trees. Exactly, best story with a werewolf in it, but undoubtedly. Glenn, yeah, with the magical wandering through the landscape on a you win the best non-submission. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And of course, Rita entering her second entry as well. A lovely poem for Santa. Well, I do believe is it Darren? Lord Darren is the werewolf, and that's part of the loveliness of it. Is having a little werewolf that goes on the tree. We need ridiculous awards. I think that's the only way forward, isn't it? Maybe what I need to do for these moots is for each entry write a category award. And the award for the best Malamute story with a Malamute in it goes to that kind of thing. Yeah, there's werewolves in it. Seems to be the law of Franklin. I think it is. Yeah, and Franklin. The law of Frank Lee, is more or less that there can never be too many werewolves, and that werewolves are friend-shaped. I do believe. You win best standing in a towel, combing my wet hair, looking for charcuterie and drinking a beer award. Nice. The Stundies or the Soupies. The Soupies. That sounds quite good. Yeah. Best story from 90-year-old goes to Rita. Yep, I like it. Yeah. A bushiest beaver. I think that's a different award ceremony. Yes. No, exactly. It was a very good Halloween poem, wasn't it? And that weirdness of sort of creeping sense of revenge and stuff like that. Yeah. Soupy awards. I mean, it's got to be like the Moot. It'll be something to do with Moot awards, hasn't it? The Moot something. Yeah, good Lord, Nolan. Yeah. Best word award. That's definitely got to be one. Yeah, Gigantical wins that hands down. I'll just make a note of that. Best word award. Yeah. Yeah. Gigantical. It's gonna be with us in our dreams tonight. The Mooties. Nice. The Golden Moot. Oh, kind of like the Golden Boot. Excuse me. I like that. The Bon Mot Moot. the writing of a moot. Writing of a moot origin award. No, that doesn't really work. It was great going to listen to it from the beginning. Okay, Cylon, cool. Yep, we're all getting a bit silly now. You take care. Enjoy your charcuterie. You didn't expect me to say it out loud. Yeah, sorry. It was right there. I just said it out loud. I apologize. Right, guys. Yes, I'm going to catch you later. I'm going to go now and finish my lemsip, maybe have a little bit of ice cream, and look forward to what this year may bring. Again, thank you so much for turning up. Thank you for your time, for your writing, for your enthusiasm, and for your talent. It's been fantastic as ever. Until next time, though, do take care. Bye-bye.